Greetings. Yeah, vacations and life and all that stuff. Yeah, that was my, and that was critical. I mean, Flying Coconuts did a really good job, made a couple of mistakes, and it led to a two touchdown victory for me. So that's was a really hard fought battle. In the first couple turns of the whole game, I was just not really sure what to do because he positioned his players really well, and that was a really fun game for me. Yeah, one guy blocked staying against the sidelines. It's tricky. Right, there was a lot of attack movements or block movements before roll free, like free moves. So I think that's what made the difference in that game. There were a couple times where assists could have been made a little bit better, but when it came down to it, I think that it was two evenly matched teams, and that chose to fight it out instead of move the ball. Right. Right. And how many passes were attempted that game? Which even though during the commentary of the match that you and I differed on the opinion of how that should go, I think that was a lot of passes for teams like that. And you say that, I mean, when done properly, they're perfectly acceptable in that with those teams. And pass, yeah, they're the thrower. Yeah, and you can go ahead and you could see us fight about it a little bit more during that particular replay of the game. Yeah, I think that the results are enough. Yep, but you can see how many points did Master Moose pick up in that game? How many star player points? And then I think Ducky Shoes got 10. It's 6 on the thrower because she threw every turn, which is just bananas in and of itself for to gain 2 levels on a 5-0 loss. But all right, yeah, that was a really interesting game. Right. So the point of the story is the bet's still alive. All right. Yeah, biased. So let's just talk about this one little thing real quick. But I did a tally of how many touchdowns were scored and how many touchdowns were allowed by each team. So the pitch doctors in 5 games scored 5 touchdowns, but allowed 7. So 1-1 tie, 0-1 loss, 1-2 loss, 2-2 tie, 1-1 tie. So you're right there. I mean, I'm waiting for that to change, the luck to change. That was a good-looking team, though. You were doing such a fantastic job of opening drives that it's so much fun to watch those special weapons. Exactly his plan. So they scored 3 touchdowns. Week 1, 2, and 3, 0, 0, and 4 and 5, and then they allowed 5. So 3 to 5 scored versus allowed. So allowed 2 last 2 weeks and allowed 1 in the first week. 3 scored, 5 allowed. Yep, and their record is 2-2. Flying coconuts. I gotta find them on my list. There we go. Flying Coconuts, their record is 2-2-1. They scored 6 and allowed 4. But yeah, based on who we've talked about. So they've scored. They have gone. They've had 2 shutouts, week 1 and week 4, where they allowed 0 touchdowns, and this is the first week that they were shut out. Let's see. So I've scored 9 touchdowns and only allowed 2. So yeah, so that's I am the biggest spread there. So 2 touchdowns scored in week 1 and 2. I got shut out and allowed my first touchdown in week 3. Came back week 4 with 3 touchdowns scored, 1 allowed, and then shut out the Iron Beer Bellies with 2 touchdowns, 0 allowed in week 5. Yep. So Umbrella Corporation, though they were shut out week 1 and 2 by myself, humbly speaking, 0-2, they are now 10-5. So they scored 10, allowed 5. So week 4 and 5. So week 4 they scored 4 touchdowns, 0 allowed. Week 5 they scored 5 touchdowns, 0 allowed, and that made all the difference. So that's a strong showing. Week 3 was a 1-1 tie. So that was a pretty big pivot at week 3. Crazy Eights. They 1, 2, and 2. They have scored 5, allowed 7. So they were shut out. Yes, exactly your stats. So they were shut out 0-2 week 1, tied 1-1 week 2, had a 2-0 shutout their favor in week 3, Then went they lost 1-3 in week 4, and then tied week 5 1-1. The Smashes are 7-7, so they're even. So it was a 1-2 loss week 1, 2-0 shutout, their favor week 2, 2-1 victory week 3, 0-4 shutout. They lost against the Umbrella Corporation week 4, and then the Smashes in week 5 were 2-0 victories. So they shut out. So they have 2 shutouts, 2 shutout victories. Sunday Speedwalkers are 2 scored, 12 scored against them. Yep. So week 1 was 2-1 victory. They were shut out 0-2 in week 3 and 4. 2-2 tie week 4, which was against you, yes? And then a 0-5 loss against the Umbrella Corporation week 5. Right. I agree. Right. And that was the kind of a thing that we noticed was that her first move every time was to move the ball up and pass it, which didn't really give her a lot of additional movement, and just kind of kept that in the backfield. Yep. So that's she's ready with another couple levels, and her team is going to be totally different, and she's going to have that ability to shape it into how she plays. So I think that's the problem is that there's a little bit of discrepancy in what the team is capable of doing and how she likes to play. Oh, it's going to be great to watch. See, that's really interesting. Is I think that the way that the vampires are set up is they've got the opportunity for the victory there. Um, I think that with your ogres, that trolls, sorry, with your trolls, that you have the opportunity to do some serious damage with mighty blow. I'd like to see some of those thralls get knocked out pretty quickly, and let that because he's been hitting that bloodlust quite a bit. So if you can diminish those thralls to the best of your ability, let that bloodlust hit, and maybe get some of those vampires off the field. And this is one of those opportunities that you might be even or plus players, because you're carrying how many players into that match. So you have an opportunity, I think, to for the first time at the end of the first drive, depending on how it goes, but you could possibly have more players than the opponent. Right, but we have to be careful to say that to do it intelligently, because we've seen some people who seem to have taken our advice a little too literally and focused too much on one aspect of the game. When we say take opposing players out, it's you have to do it intelligently and use good assists, good blocks, do it at the right time in the turn. Right. Yeah, that's exciting. I'm 100% in agreement with you there. I think that those teams are very well balanced, and both coaches are about the same level of experience and comfort level with their respective teams. And I think that's going to be the most important thing that we're going to see. Right, and I'm going to disagree with you, and I'm going to tell you why. Is the movement allowance that the elves have versus what those dwarves have. Plus, if all she has to do is remember to make good dodge rolls and maximize the movement allowance that she has. And as long as she can create that good one space buffer of separation so that he's forced to blitz to get any sort of damage on her, then I think that she can do this. Yeah, and I absolutely see that, and I think that your opinion and my opinion have highlighted the way that this game can go in two completely different ways, and both of them are 100% valid, and it's just how it's going to play out. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's easy. Yeah, no, they're definitely a good team. We just have to see how he's going to make it happen, and that's going to be the difference. Is if he's gonna do it, he's going to do it. And I've been doing a fairly good job of playing smart, but I've also been making some mistakes that, if capitalized upon, make me a weak team. And you can see how exactly his plan took advantage of that and got a really solid victory against me. And that was tough. And they're the only ones that managed to make up that little bit of a difference. So good luck, and it'll be a good game. That's true. Also, if he feeds me a lot of whiskey, he's got a fair chance then as well. No, I'm excited to see how it'll play out. And there were levels, we just can't talk about it, and I think that those are going to be a big deal in the next week, and we'll probably discuss those as we remember them having happened during the recap of each of the games. Cheers.